So we're on lockdown. Not allowed to drive anywhere, not allowed to go anywhere. You can't even go for an aimless drive. Coronavirus is changing the way that we live. So I'm going to try and spend some time on the GTO. We'll move the cloth off the top of it. If you've watched some of my videos, you'll know that this GTO has caused me nothing but a headache. And that's partly because I'm not a mechanic and I'm not an auto electrician. But I am trying to learn and I am trying to do things myself. It's a good job I'm doing that because we're not allowed to leave the house. So I can't go to a mechanic or I can't get anybody around to come and give me a hand. I've got to do this on my own. And I don't know how long we're going to be stuck in this house for until all these new rules have been lifted. If you're caught out of your home with a non-essential drive, you are possibly going to be fined, I think it's £60. And that's for the viewers that are not in UK. This virus has literally brought the world to its knees. So here we are, GTO, and the GTO is still not running right. Update on what I've done so far. I've checked the gaps on the spark plugs. I bought myself a gapping tool, feeler gauge, really that's the correct term. Yes, the spark plugs were quite a way out. I've corrected the gapping to what I think is the correct gapping. It's 0.30 millimeters, I think. That's on advice of other owners that are running a similar kind of horsepower. The other thing I tried to do was connect the ECU to a laptop, which I've got there waiting to go. But since I've done that, this car struggles to idle. It just stalls out, and I don't know why. I haven't changed anything on the settings. I've literally just had it connected up. So today I'm going to be looking for little details. I've been told or advised to look for water temperature readings and that kind of stuff, lambda readings, to see if the lambda sensor is connected through the ECU. But I doubt it is because this is quite an old ECU. The technology is really old. There's a couple other things that I want to look at. The passenger door, I've got it open. The passenger door, I've got Jaden helping me. Schools are closed, so we're going to get him out the house and we're going to, hopefully, he can learn something. Yeah. Yeah, so we've got the passenger door open. The problem with that, a bit dark if I go that way. The problem with that is the passenger door window doesn't open. It doesn't open and close. It doesn't slide up and down. And I don't know what's causing that, so I'm going to try and have a look at it. First thing I'm going to look at is the fuses. However, to get to the fuses underneath there is easier said than done because there's that much wiring in this car, and it's all been bodged, literally bodged, with crocodile chocolate block connectors. I don't know what you call. I call them a chocolate block because it looks like a chocolate block, which are a household connection. This car is littered with them. Anyway, so once I've got to that, hopefully I can find out why the window, and it's not something like a regulator or the motor itself is knacked up. I'm hoping it's something simple that I can hopefully fix. On other things, I've got a few other jobs to do, but that requires parts. The parts I can't get until this curfew thing is lifted, because I'm not allowed to drive to where the other car is. Because I do have another GTO sitting in the garage in very poor nick, which I bought for about 400 quid, which I did plan on doing like a strip down of it, but I'm going to be taking all of the parts from that car and I'm going to be putting them onto this car. But I can't get there until we are allowed to just aimlessly drive. I'm just proving that the car does actually move. Okay, so we pulled it out because the fuse box is like under all that at the back there. So I have to get through all of that. Yes, I know this place is a mess, but I'm also... Another job I've got to do from it standing so for so long, the tyre's starting to get soft. So I've got the little compressor out and I'm just gonna go through all the tires. Just make sure they've got some fresh air in them and whatever, you know. So I've had to go and get my hat because it's really, really cold. Now, I said I was going to try and fix the passenger window on the GTO, and I fixed that window. And I'm quite thick at times. I've checked all the fuses. All the fuses are fine. I checked all the fuses in under the bonnet, under the dashboard. Couldn't find anything wrong. And then I thought, right, okay, it's got to be a wiring issue. So I started looking at the switch on the driver's side, messing about. Shall I show you why the passenger window was not going up and down? Yes, and I'm thick for this. Really thick. I forgot to press that button. All because of that button. Bloody Nora. So, I did a bit of shopping, and yeah, because I've been advised to have a look at the ECU and see what the ECU is reading temperature wise and lambdas and all that kind of stuff, okay? I'm not a mechanic, and so in order to do that I needed this cable. If it's focusing, no? Yeah? If it's focusing, yes? Okay. So I needed that cable. Given to me by Michael. I connected this up and I couldn't get this cable to work with the ECU whatsoever. Apparently something to do with that cable, there's something wrong. So I have bought another cable. And that's the company. Okay? This cable does work because I have had this connected. Now the problem that I'm having with the car is that we've tried to drive the car and it had a on boost. Just wouldn't, it wanted to go, it didn't want to go, kind of weird. That's why I've checked the gaps in the spark plugs. The other thing is that it starts to hunt and I'm trying to establish what the hell's going on. Just the car is not running right. And I'm not a mechanic and I'm struggling to explain this, but never mind. So I've got the car running, connected up to the laptop. Inlet air temperature is 5.7 degrees Celsius. The question is that this car idles fine when it's cold. It's once it warms up. The RPMs seem to be matching what's on there. Now, it's got an igniter error. From what I've read online, that could be a bad earth, or it could be something to do with the channels. From what I've read, it's RPMs, the noise, the pulse that it gets. I don't know. I can't quote it off the top of my head. So I'm going to have to check, make sure that the ECU itself is earthed properly. Alright, things are starting to change. It sounds like the ARP, it's starting to lean out. That car is testing my lack of skill level to the max. I'm trying to get that car running. And it's taken me a while. COVID-19, housebound, and I'm starting to resemble a dead cat off a microphone. Can't go to a hairdresser's because everything's closed. While the PC's booting up, I suppose I better explain to you what the hell's been going on with this car. I've been trying in vain to get this car running sweet. I checked the plugs were white, and at first, but I made the mistake of only checking 2 plugs. I changed a couple of earths, cleaned up a couple of earths. I also changed one wire that was to a live, which I couldn't understand why it had been deleted, because there was a main harness that was cut. The dilemmas I'm having with this car at the moment. Annabelle and I took this car for a drive a couple of weeks ago, and it'll idle from cold, fine. After a few minutes it'll start to hunt. Hunting is where the revs go up and down, in case I'm using the wrong term. On tick over, the car drives spot on. When the car tries to go on a boost, it starts to splutter. Kind of like it wants to go, but it doesn't want to go. So I've been looking at all, I've gapped the plugs. Now, the plugs were gapped, they were copper based plug, grade 8s, can't remember. The I can't remember. I think there's grade 8s there, and this might be grade 7s, or vice versa. Don't quote me, but I don't think that's going to be that much of a difference. The gaps, I was told to go no less than 0.024, and when I pulled the plugs out, they were at 0.70. So I've gapped them to 0.30. I haven't tested the car since then. One thing I did notice is when the engine was rebuilt here on the driveway by the previous owner, if you've been following the channel, you've been following the history of this car, I have a visitor. He better keep his distance because of this coronavirus. Carry on. Hi, you keep your distance, I've got a camera going. Says he's scared to get out.
You know your engine lights and that?
Aye.
You know how you need them all the way?
Can you stay 2 meters away, please?
That's 2 meters. You know how you need them all the way?
Well, it's not dire straight. He's leaving. And he didn't come in the garage, and I stayed exactly where I'm at. 2 meter rule. Anyway, where was I? Explaining what I've got to do with this ECU. Instead of trying to backtrack to where I was, because I can't remember what I was talking about. Right, so I'm sat in the car, and like I say, I'm dealing with a very helpful man called Peter, who is part of the MAP ECU company, and yeah, he's been brilliant. I've tried to explain as best as I can via email what I'm actually going through with this car and what I've noticed. Now, on one of the things on the ECU, right, I haven't connected to the car. I am connected with the cable, ignition's on the car, but it says primary, LC. LC, if you can see that, I'll zoom in quickly. LC, okay, LC stands for launch control. Now, I couldn't understand I knew that it meant launch control, but I couldn't understand why it was on, or what switched it off, or deactivated, or whatever. Now, the other problem that I get, so when I click onto connect to the ECU, it'll come up in the middle between LC and, that's now connecting, between primary and LC, it'll come up with igniter error. There you go. So it's got igniter error. Now that is reading what the ECU is seeing. Now I'm trying to determine, now primary's always been there, it's not a problem. But I'm trying to determine why it's got igniter error and why LC is there. Another thing I need to add is when the car was built on the driveway, we used the previous owner, because the previous owner built this car on his driveway, okay? And he knows this car inside out. I took a video of him working on the ECU with this car. Clearly he used a different laptop. Now, what I'm explained there before is when I click edit and I go into ECU configuration, that configuration is different. Where he had an extra column, so this was a little bit wider, this block was a bit wider, and he had an extra column. So as opposed to having the 3 columns, he had 4 columns. I couldn't understand. The other problem that I'm having, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, is what I've noticed is under mode, where that says Karman vortex frequency. Now, in the video where the previous owner was going through the ECU, it said KVF, which is, I'm assuming, is the shorthand for that, abbreviation for that, KVF elimination. Now, when I've looked in the drop down selection, that's not allowed. I've got Barrow, which is there. Now, in the video, the previous owner, he mentioned that if you don't have KVF elimination and Barrow, the car will not strike. So the car is striking, but that says different. The other problem that I've got is the igniter configuration. It says 6-cylinder group igniter. Now on the video, it said 6-cylinder wasted spark. And that's one of the things that I need to determine why it's so different. Zoom out. I mean, no, not zoom in, fool. So, like I say, I've been in touch with Mapcal, the company, with the ECU to see if they can help me learn how to operate this ECU and what I'm looking at, because I don't think that the car should have a full-on remap after just having the top end refreshed. The last ECU that I got off with them after I explained everything that I've been through has been very helpful, and they're asking me for a couple of pictures, and yeah, so they've confirmed that the LC is showing. That means that launch control is enabled. That will probably cause a misfire, which is what we were experiencing. This is where it gets technical, and this is where I need to do my research and I need to take my time learning. That's how this is all still about the launch control. That's how it controls RPM. Is your engine coil on plug or wasted spark? Now that ECU used to say wasted spark. On the video that I've got, which I might put a little of a clip of it.
You got your KVF elimination and your barrow on your MAF output. If you don't have them, the car won't strike up.
Okay.
6-cylinder wasted spark, which is right.
It said wasted spark. It's clearly saying something different. Now wasted spark is not in the drop down selection, so it's not like I can select it. It's not there. The number of wires on the 18-way connector will help determine that too. What that means, I genuinely, at this point in time of making this video, I don't know. But I will research and I am going to look at it. I obviously also need to check the ECU version. They're asking me to check the Mapcal version and Map ECU 2 firmware version. A screenshot of the ECU configuration screen would confirm that too. So they want a picture of what I'm seeing, which is the configure ECU, the page that I've just shown you there. Yeah, so we're going to get there eventually. I don't think the problems that this car are having are to do with a mechanical failure or spark plug gapping and that kind of stuff, which they might have helped, might have tweaked it a bit. I think the problem that I'm having at the moment is an electrical gremlin. Either something's not wired in properly, or the fact that I've used an old firmware on this disc. I don't know. I need to try and upgrade everything. If I can upgrade everything, then we'll get from there. But with the help from Peter, hopefully we'll get sorted with this car and hopefully get it running.
Looking out the door, always looking round for more. Didn't know it had everything I needed. Tried to give me all the clues, hoping I would see